Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to my review of Forza Motorsport 6. So what I'm going to do in this review is basically go over 6 main areas that I think are important to racing games and then give them all a score at the end so we can get the overall score for the game. And first up is obviously physics. Now, Forza Motorsport's biggest strength and its biggest weakness in my opinion simultaneously is that it's trying to be something for everybody. And that's really sort of shown up the most in the physics of the game, because it's trying to be a simulator and it's trying to give you the proper experience of driving a car, but it's also trying to be accessible to everybody else as well. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with trying to be accessible, but some of the advanced modelling that you do get, or players may be used to with something like Project Cars, isn't here, and it just, because it's trying to be accessible, it doesn't give you that full experience of what a real simulator game really would. So it is a little bit disappointing on that aspect, you know. It just doesn't really know what it wants to be in terms of physics. It took me quite a lot to get used to the handling, and it took me quite a lot of fiddling about to find something that I was comfortable with in terms of assists. But having said that, one of the most jaw-dropping aspects of the physics engine in particular is what you're seeing on the screen right now. Racing in the rain is absolutely incredible. The puddles that form, like, you know, it's amazing to be talking about puddles in such an amazing sort of as something that are amazing and key to the game. But I've never seen anything like this before, and the way that they model the puddles in terms of when you go through them, they do feel just like it does when you're driving a car in real life when you lose that grip, and it's just not something that I've ever seen before, and it's certainly set the new benchmark when it comes to wet weather driving in my opinion, and it's just so much fun. So that's one of the absolute maximum positives about the physics in general of Forza Motorsport. The wet weather driving is just incredible. So next up, we're going to be looking at the visuals. Now, Forza Motorsport is one of the best looking games that I've really ever seen. It's absolutely incredible. It uses the next gen power to the maximum amount that it can, and it really is shown up really well. Now, it took me a while to again get used to the camera view that I really wanted, and I would say that the in-car camera is the best if you're using a controller and you're reasonably close to the screen. And it also gives some incredible shots, as you'll see in the next few clips. The way that, especially the light effects, I think is what shows it really well. You know, the reflections of the windscreen and the light from the sun as you turn corners and all that kind of stuff. From the in-car view, the cockpit camera, it really does show it very well. And some of the little details in terms of the tracks themselves, when it comes to visuals, such as sort of when you go into a tire barrier, tires will fall off and all that kind of stuff. It just little details like that really do add to the experience and make this game an absolutely beautiful game. It's not exactly 100% perfect, because there are no doubt some PC games that even look better than this, but it does set the new benchmark in terms of visuals, certainly for console games. And some of the lighting effects that you get, especially in the night, as you can see here, are just jaw-droppingly beautiful. And obviously the same goes for wet weather driving as well. So they've done a fantastic job with visuals, and that is certainly one of the strengths of the game, even if the physics don't quite live up to what you may have hoped. Again, this is another example of it trying to be have as much appeal as possible, and certainly visuals are the way to do that. Now we come on to the cars, and the cars are probably Forza Motorsport's greatest strength and always really have been. The amount of selection that you have in terms of cars is absolutely incredible. It's not necessarily 10 versions of the same car that make up the numbers. It's so many different types of vehicles as well, from regular road cars to even Formula E and you know, Indy cars and V8 supercars. So all of the, you know, pretty much the majority of motorsports are represented in some way in terms of the car selection that you can have. But it's not necessarily just about the amount of cars and the type of cars, which is fantastic on its own, but it also comes into the amount of customization that you can do with these cars as well. And again, that is something that Forza Motorsport has always had as its main strength. In terms of customization, the amount of liveries that you can get for these cars is infinite, really, because they are created by the community. And what I really like is that when you go to buy a car in Forza Motorsport 6, it gives you options of sort of the most popular liveries straight away. You don't necessarily have to then go into a separate menu to apply that or anything. You know, it's pretty much straight there when you buy the car, so you do get a lot of variety with that. And obviously with this Ford GT, I decided to choose the proper GT racer style livery that's coming out for this. But then you've also got customization in terms of the car performance as well, and that is very, very advanced. There's a lot there that you can do with these cars. And it's always been the same with Forza Motorsport. If you're getting a Forza Motorsport game, you know that the cars are really going to be its strength, and that is absolutely no different here. The game is this is the biggest strength of the game entirely, to be honest, and it's certainly worth picking up just for that, frankly. So we come on to tracks, and tracks are very, very good. You know, there's quite a lot of tracks. There's quite a lot of real world tracks. There are a few circuits that aren't necessarily in the real world, but they do have a lot of character to them as well. And this is kind of from the cars and the tracks, this is where we see that the big budget of Forza Motorsport 6 really pay dividends, because, you know, some other games like Project Cars, for example, they may have to create variations of tracks that don't quite have the same name or anything like that, and that's never something that I've really enjoyed. For example, having Sakito instead of Suzuka, it's never that great in my personal opinion. And this is something that Forza Motorsport does absolutely well. It nails everything. It's got all of the different variations of all of the tracks that it has. It has lots of different tracks available, and they're all very, very good in terms of the visuals and in terms of the modeling and all that kind of stuff. And you do feel like you are really there. Now, one of the negative aspects of the tracks is that this also comes into sort of the physics and the visuals, I guess you could say, as well. But there is night driving on some of the tracks, and there is wet weather driving on some of the tracks as well. But the problem is that it's not dynamic. So you can be racing at night, but you will always be racing at night. You can't go from day to night or night to day. And similarly with weather, all of the puddles that have been modeled are always in the exact same place. They never dry up, the rain never stops. You can't go from a wet race to a dry race. So that is one of the negatives about it, and especially with the advanced weather modelling that we have in other games these days, it's a shame that we don't have that dynamic weather aspect, because that is one of the more interesting aspects of racing games, is trying to deal with different conditions at different parts of the race. So next up, we've got the single player mode. Now, again, the big budget is shown here when it comes to some of the voiceovers that you get, you know, from the ex-Top Gear guys, and various different people have voiceover parts in the game to make you feel as if you're part of it. Now, with the single player, you basically go through 5 different volumes, and in each of those volumes you have 3 separate challenges, or series should I say, and then in each of those series you can choose which car that you use and which class of vehicle that you're going to be racing that series in. So for example here, Sport Coupes for this first this Challenger series. Now, when you complete one series, you move on to the next series. When you complete all 3 series, you move on to the next volume, which is basically going up the motorsport ladder. And then at the end of the volumes, you've got sort of the highest level of motorsport with sort of open wheel, single seaters, all that kind of stuff. Now, the single player is very good. I would say that it's certainly one of the better single player experiences in a racing game that I've ever had, and it's certainly the best that Forza Motorsport I've ever done. But it does still lack that idea of a career mode. It feels like you're sort of going more through a bit of a motorsport museum and testing out different things rather than having a specific career, and there's no sort of storyline there, which is something that obviously Project Cars does quite well. So it's very, very good, but it's just not quite as good as what I would have hoped. But then you've got all these extra features as well that do keep the game fresh. You're not just racing regularly. You know, you've got the spins that you can win various different things every time you go up a driver level. You've got mods that you can apply, which are only available in single player, that give you different challenges as well, and also showcase events, which again, it just all adds to the experience and makes it a little bit more interesting as you're going through the game, so you're not getting bored of doing the same thing all the time. Now, multiplayer is something that I was a little bit disappointed about with Forza Motorsport 6. It is well organised in terms of the things that you can do, and I tried a little bit in the introductory series, and that was just ghost racing, which was about as interesting as you might expect. Well, very, very boring, let's put it that way. And I also tried a little bit in terms of proper racing as well, and the racing that I did have was very good with other players. But what disappointed me the most about Forza Motorsport is that it doesn't seem to have any level of customization with the lobbies that you can have. You can create a private match and you can customize the options there, but when you're racing in random lobbies like this, there isn't a specific host who can change the settings, and I think that's something that is vital to racing games. And some of the best racing that I've ever had online on Forza Motorsport games in the past has come from there being, you know, a really good host who puts on great settings, and you get a group of people who are all racing together. They're all completely randoms to each other, but they're doing the things that the host has set out. So it is a bit of a, I don't think this sort of matchmaking and forcing people into specific tracks and specific areas and voting on tracks really works for racing games, but ultimately that's what they've gone for. They've also got the league play as well, which it's okay, but you know, the multiplayer in general is something that I wasn't really that impressed with for Forza Motorsport. And as I said, you do have the private matches that you can sort of create your own races for, but because again the physics is not exactly on par with some of those other more serious racing games, if you're ever going to create a private match, really, if you're a serious racer, you probably want to be doing it on other games that model the physics a little bit better. So ultimately, here are the scores. Now, these are for each of the categories that we've gone through, and they basically reflect how Forza Motorsport is trying to be something for everybody, and that is both its strength and its weakness as well. As I mentioned, the things that it does well, it does very, very well. The cars and the visuals especially, and the big budget is shown there in terms of the tracks and the cars as well. But I would say that the things that it doesn't do very well, it does just well enough to make it all come together as a package. And I would say that Forza Motorsport 6 is probably overall the best racing game that is available right now. As an overall package, as a full package in terms of, you know, taking into account everything that you can do, it is the best that you can get right now. So that's my overall review of Forza Motorsport 6. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to say a big thank you to funstockracing.co.uk. They are basically a website that only sells racing games, and you can actually get 5% off anything on their site if you have a look in the description for my code. It's just 1322. But yeah, they have basically provided me with Forza Motorsport 6 so I can do this review. And racing game reviews is something that I've wanted to do for quite a long time, because I've got a lot of experience with racing games, and I think I can sort of give you guys interesting information about it and give you guys a different take on it. And they are basically allowing me to do that by providing me with these racing games. They are allowing me to make these racing game reviews that I've always wanted to do for you guys. So I really do appreciate them providing me with the game. Be sure to show them some love. Check them out. You can obviously buy Forza Motorsport 6 on there now, or the new Need for Speed, which will be coming soon, and I'll try to get that reviewed as well. Yeah, show them some love, because I really do appreciate it, and without them I wouldn't be able to do this. So yeah, Forza Motorsport 6 is certainly worth picking up, I would say, if you're interested in cars or interested in racing. It probably shouldn't be your primary racer if you are a serious racer and you like the simulator aspect of things, but ultimately it is probably the most complete racing game that you can get right now. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know all your thoughts about this review down below, and I'll try to improve in future reviews as well. Thank you all so much for your support. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.